Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to We Built an Empire. I'm your host, Kyle Wolff. In today's episode, we talk to my friend and the Plata County Commissioner, Matt Salka.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Mr. Matt Salka, good afternoon. Thank you for being on the podcast. How are you?
Yes, doing well. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was excited when I saw you joined up. I was like, that'll be nice to get a chance to actually sit kind of long form and talk to Matt. So yeah, how are things?
Things are going really well. Definitely as county commissioner now, it's pretty busy, which is no complaint at all. It's really enjoy my job. It's one where, before I was county commissioner, I was the mayor of Bayfield and then a town trustee and kind of working through the ranks of just public service and really have found the area of where I really want to focus my life on is that serving people and trying to solve problems. So things are going good. I can't complain.
Good. So for the listeners, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Matt, so I know you obviously on a little bit of a personal level. We have, mutual friends and, living in the same town. But why don't you go ahead and just give a little bit of a backstory? What county, do you work for, and kind of just bring the listeners up to speed, if you don't mind, just a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So I am county commissioner for La Plata County. It's the southwest corner of the state of Colorado. We're close to the four corners of area. And, what I do is county commissioner of state legislation, working on state rules, laws, statutes to be able to provide input and be the voice for our La Plata County residents. And previously before that, and when I first met you, I was the mayor of Bayfield. So, a little bit of information on myself would be I had two small businesses, was asked to consider being a voice for the business community in the town of Bayfield and run for town trustee. And so I, at first, to be very honest, was, oh gosh, that's a great networking opportunity. I didn't know, I wasn't born or raised from the beginning of day one and said that you're gonna be a public official and run for an elected office. It was more of I kind of fell into that position. So I represented for my business for networking, and then found that this was my true love and passion, was be able to listen to people, try to solve problems, and work for my community. Which, after serving 6 years for the town of Bayfield, I was asked to consider running for county commissioner here in La Plata County, and it's been working it worked in my favor. Voters approved. They voted for me. And now I've been having this position so far for La Plata County for almost 2 years now. January would be my second year.
Oh, good. Nice. How long is your term? And I ask that because obviously I make a joke like on the road to November, right? It used to be like the big football mantra, like if we get to play in November, we're in state. But, obviously it's the campaign trail. It's hot and heavy right now. Everybody's shaking hands in every community event they could possibly be at. And you see the signs going up. And I see that, obviously Brad Blake's running again, I think for District 1. For commissioner. And, so is your term longer? Because I'm not seeing you running anywhere. Is that because you're an incumbent, or what's going on there?
So I am happy to say that I am not running right now. My term is up to, one term is 4 years.
Okay,
so I
okay.
would be hitting my second year mark in January.
Perfect. All right. So you get to kind of breathe a little sigh of relief of maybe, I don't not that it's a sigh of relief, but you know what I mean? Like that's gotta be a little bit distracting. I can imagine, like, you're still doing the job. You're still the elected official. You're in the public eye. You're kind of accountable for your actions, or heavily accountable for your actions. And then all of a sudden on the every night and weekend and evening, you're mixing and mingle and you're running this campaign trail. And I can imagine the data and analytics are sitting there just kind of bothering you from your daily job, so to speak. So I can imagine that's a bit of a relief.
It is definitely great. I don't have to beg, plead for funds for my campaign. It's more of now of just representing La Plata County. And of course, I'm still, I'm running into Brad Blake. I'm running into Jack Turner and Clyde Church, the three that are running for District 1 seat. I'm still a true believer on getting out to the public, still going into those events that be able to have public outreach, because, just because I'm elected doesn't mean I can go to work and sit at home home and not talk to anyone. Truly, our job is to engage the public as much as possible. Of course, I still want to have a personal life and get out there. And, my passion is boating and camping. So I still get that opportunity to just have a little bit of a downtime. But I feel like I'm still campaigning, but that's my job, is to get out there and listen to anyone that wants to bring any issues or concerns to me.
Yeah, I mean, I can almost bank on seeing you at an event. Like if I'm going there, it's like, I've never done this before. Like Matt will probably be there, so we'll be good. So,
well, that's
awesome.
Good too. Is then we can go into a corner and chat and talk about world domination or something. And,
yeah, we're gonna change our little corner of the world. So yeah, I've got a couple bullet points just because I knew that our time today might be a little bit shorter than some of the other guests, just because of your actual job. But one thing I was talking about with some of the locals, and it hit a little bit home yesterday with my son. I was taking him. We left a little bit early to go to soccer practice, and I didn't really want to just. I was kind of just trying to meander through Durango, as we're a little early and I don't want to get there too soon. But anyways, we drove by Purple Cliffs the other day. And I know that there's been some action in the newspapers and, with what's going on with that. And, so for the listeners, I don't know what the legal term is, I guess. But would it be safe to call Purple Cliffs like kind of a section of our town that kind of butts up to some public lands that could be like a homeless encampment? Am I wrong in saying that? I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but.
Right. So I can just bring it back just a little bit. And a couple of years ago, actually, almost 5 years ago, was the 416 fire in Durango. And what happened was that there were some homeless individuals that were displaced. And it was never set as, Purple Cliffs was never set as a official homeless encampment. But it did grow into be pretty much that, is that any individuals that are unhoused would be able to go to a location to be able to have a safe place or a place to stay, at least. And it is a hillside. It is, I have to state that it's unsafe, it's unsanitary, it's illegal. But we've been allowing that because there hasn't really been deemed a good place in La Plata County or in the city of Durango. We county commissioners have given direction for county staff a few months ago about we are officially closing Purple Cliffs on September 30th, so the end of this month. And we are working diligently, county staff is, and Mana Resource, which is a great asset to have working for the county and the city, is doing some outreach. We're doing some street outreach programs right now. And just during the high peak of Purple Cliffs, you were looking at about 220 individuals staying on this hillside. With that, there was concerns for first responders. You're having the fire department or police or the sheriff's department going up there and unable to locate individuals if they've made a call for 911 for help. The safety of the first responders being able to climb up a side of a hillside and being able to respond to any of those calls that are being made. Safety with children on that hillside playing in the county road where there is no sidewalk, there's no curb and gutter. I do make my rounds. I've toured Purple Cliffs several times now, and just watching these young children just playing in a county road where the speed limit is around 40, 45 miles an hour. That's, I'm surprised, and I'm very happy that no one's gotten hurt from getting hit by a car. So at the peak of the 220 individuals at Purple Cliffs, I do, with the hard work of Mana Resource and county and other great organizations like NINA, is that we're at right now, the census for who is there right now is 55 people. The county has prioritized exactly who we want to help right away, and that is the youth, pregnant individuals, and families. And so we've had a great opportunity to be able to move some families into a transitional housing, as well as staying in hotels to be able to have a safe place, dry, because the weather's changing. It's getting cold now. Mm-hmm. And we're working on being able to help them move in different areas or the shelter. We do have a shelter, but the concerns is that September 30th is here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I was going to say that's rapidly approaching.
It is. And so I don't know, these 55 individuals that are Purple Cliffs at the moment, they don't want, at least what we're hearing from them is that they don't want services. They don't want help. They just want to be left alone and stay at Purple Cliffs.
Sure.
Well, we're going to do our best to be trauma informed. We have individuals and many organizations that will be working with those, the residual 55 residents there at Purple Cliffs to help at least locate them or provide any services that they're willing. But the question will be is if they, we don't want to put anyone in jail. We just want to do our best to be able to assist on them on going to a different area, different location that is legal, safe, sanitary, and that's what we're going to be facing here soon. We don't want them to go to city parks.
Sure.
Our job is to help facilitate and point them in the right direction, and hopefully one day get a job, get apartment, transitional housing, any options possible. But they need to want to have that. Sure.
Yeah. And, kind of preparatory for this show, just kind of combing through some of the Herald's comments around this. Obviously it is, it's a dicey topic, I could say, for kind of more of a layman's terms, because there's the mind of a lot of folks where it's like, we don't want this, it is it's unsafe. Like you were saying, it's hazardous to both people that are driving down that road. Cause it's a 2-lane road. But it's tiny. It's bordered on one side by a mountain. The other side is a drop off to the river. So, but there's the mindset of, we don't want this, but also we don't want to negatively impact any one person. We don't want to put them at further disparage. But seeing some of the comments on the threads from the Herald, people are concerned with what you say. Like, okay, if we quote unquote evict these individuals from the Purple Cliffs areas, then what's to stop them if they don't want to go into the transitional housing that the county and the city are trying to provide, and the other entities, if they don't want to go into that housing program, what's to stop them from going to the park? And then even to add to that, some of the comments were, once we go in and maybe we do safely evict all of these individuals and go in and have a, kind of a crowdsourced cleanup program to get the cliffs safe, sanitary again, and more back to their natural state, right? Which was, natural vegetation in a Colorado mountain. What's to stop them from rehabiting that area? That's just kind of a common thread. So I don't know if you can talk to it, but if you can, has there been any discussion around that from the county level, and what I guess would be the actions of the county if we do see that happen?
Right. So with it, that's why this really highlights exactly the need for a single location for a managed camp or a low barrier camp, a place where individuals of the unhoused to be able to put up their tent and stay. As it sits right now for the city of Durango, you are allowed to put up a tent in a city park, but only at sunset and sunrise. You're allowed to have a tent. Well, the concerns are that may leak out into multiple city parks. At least from the county's perspective, we were asking potentially of changing their ordinance to be able to just locate a single park or a single location to allow them to keep their tents up 24 hours out of the day. So with that, we're fully committed on trying to find a location with the city of Durango. We have earmarked $1 million from our American Rescue Plan funds that we got from the federal government. So we have $1 million set aside, ready to go on purchasing land or improving property that's already owned by the county or the city. There has been some potential locations located, but there's no exact details on that just yet. The county will be having a joint city meeting on Monday to discuss further. I hope to hear from maybe potential city locations and or also county locations. But this is going to, I have to be fully transparent. This is going to get ugly for a while. We've done our best to work with a lot of the families at Purple Cliffs, and it's showing that it is working. But for those single individuals, the 55 people that are currently right now at Purple Cliffs, it's going to be a mess. So we want to do our best to assist them. We don't want to throw them in jail. But these are going to be your options. And one of those options potentially can go is staying at a city park and putting your tent up during sunrise and sunset. And, you know, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
But we're doing everything that it takes to make sure that we don't want them on Main Street in Durango. We don't want them to take over a park and pretty much just deter families to actually use our beautiful parks that we have in the city of Durango. But that's why, at least for us in the county, we're saying let's pick a location for the time being, not temporary, and then let's work together on purchasing land or using existing land that we already have. Because we want to provide utilities, services, transit opportunities so they can go to work in the city of Durango. Mm-hmm. We don't want to hinder them. We want to give them every opportunity possible to get up off their feet.
Yeah, I was talking to an individual the other day, and she actually kind of directed me towards some data set points. She works for an undiscussed entity here in the county, but either way, she gave me some really good articles to review, and it was kind of some of the topics were obviously mental health. That kind of surrounds that demographic of people throughout the country, not just our small little corner of the world. But there were interesting topics. Some of these, and this is on a much larger scale, millions of people or hundreds of thousands. And some of the cities are now being forced to or voluntarily, purchasing some of these rundown or deferred apartment complexes and even like old hotels and things, and renovated that and kind of making that into a transitional scenario to where they can kind of get some of the health. And it is a lot of, pro bono, like nurses are going in and they're giving, trying to assess the mental health scenario that surrounds, again, that demographic of people. But the greater thing that I took out of those reads was the financial burden that was actually resolved. Essentially, it's hard to say that. It's like, you look at it at times, I think, from a beautification standpoint, right? It's not beauty to see a homeless encampment. Whether it's right, wrong, or different, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, aesthetically pleasing, it's not. And so there comes a cost to that. You said earlier, our sheriff's department, our fire department, our health and safety personnel, there's a huge cost burden that goes to that. Thing that's not mentioned or seen a lot is that a lot of these individuals will be taken to a hospital, whatever their ailment may be. There's a huge cost, and that will never be repaid. They could go to Mercy Medical or Centura Health, and they're going to have an astronomical bill depending on what their ailment is, or they may be trying to go to stay warm, to get a good night's rest, potentially, hopefully this isn't happening, but potentially be given some type of medication to try and offset their ailments. And so it's when you start to quantify that in these case studies, the burden is already there, but it seems like a lot of people aren't aware of that burden. And so what she was trying to present to me is this is what's happening in larger cities. And you can look at the data sets and say, oh my gosh, here was the burden beforehand, and now the burden's down here. And so the argument is people are like, well, we shouldn't have to be paying for this. Like, it doesn't matter whether you think that you're not paying for it now because it's not directly in your backyard. You're paying for this as a member of this county, one way, shape, or form. Like, we are paying for this with tax dollars. And so it's like, that argument is, okay, if this burden right now is considered to be 100%, we could reduce that to 30%. By doing something of that nature. And I thought it was a really interesting read, and just a concept of like the burden's there. And I don't think we'll see the true impact of doing that, because that's, like in LA, they've recently done this within the last 36 to 24 months, so it's still new, but I'd like to see in the next 5 to 10 years, the effects that has and what those case studies then can present of like, we had X amount of patients come in with mental health disorders, and we have gotten them back into the society. So now they're an acting member of this community, and they're producing back into our community. So I'm just interested, it's kind of a sidebar. My brain went there, and I thought it was a really, when you said transitional housing, I was like, man, I think that I don't know how much validity there is to that, but I do think that it's a good concept, and hopefully people are sort of thinking in that methodology of like, what can we do to better the situation? people are not going to go away. I don't, you say 220 families or 220 people, those 220 people still have to go somewhere. They're not just going to vanish, and so it's like, what do we do with an existing problem? So,
and those numbers is that these are a lot of long-term residents. These aren't just ones passing through. Mind you, they still have that. But mental health is a huge concern. When I first became county commissioner almost 2 years ago, Access Health is for an example, for a great group that works here in La Plata County. And, my first question was, why aren't you doing more? Why are you stuck just only helping this amount of people? And because there's a lot more treatments, different ways, when you look at mental health across the board, there is not one type of service to be able to address all of them. And Access Health is only limited to be able to help a certain amount. And so that's the reason why for county commissioners, we've made a priority we have, for the listening public, there's a facility, it's called Denier. It used to be a youth detention facility for the youth that was owned by the government. They have now handed that over to La Plata County government. And now we have this facility just sitting there dormant. And so we've asked, this is public funds, so I know this is still people's tax dollars, but we were able to get approved $1.8 million from the federal government to be able to help retrofit and change our Denier facility. We're working on a feasibility study to see if exactly a mental health / drug treatment inpatient facility could be beneficial in our region, not just for La Plata County, but for our region. And so we're really working hard on being able to, I feel it's my duty and I'm obligated to make sure that I can do whatever it takes to be able to address any family member or any individual that lives in La Plata County. And if we don't have the services, then we can't help at all. And just the problem is just going to keep getting worse. So I'll definitely feel better knowing that there are options for families and individuals to get that help when we actually get those services here in La Plata County in our region.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear. I didn't realize that was even an option. So, we'll absolutely put that, information in the show notes, but, you and I, we won't talk about it, but, maybe on a different platform, but, you and I have both been impacted personally with loss of life of some individuals in this area due to drugs, due to mental health, due to other things like that. And so that is such a huge advantage, I think, to our community to be able to offer that to a broader community, because it's absolutely out there. And if people want to turn a blind eye to it, that's fine. That's a prerogative, but it is out there. It is very prevalent. And it is a real deal. And so, that many fingers, Matt, that in a short period of time, and it was once a year. And so a facility like that would be amazing. And I hope to hear more great news about that. And I, when that does come to light, I'd like to bring you back on and talk further in detail about that in specific. So that's huge. So thank you for actually bringing that to my attention. That's really good. I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm taking my hurt and my pain of the loss of our friends. We have mutual friends that we've lost, and taking that negativity that I have in me and turning it around and trying to do my best to be able to know these families were struggling and they were trying to find help and they just couldn't get it right away. So again, this is options that need to be available in our region for those families to be able to get the help they need. And so, I would love to talk more about that when this comes more to fruition, on being able to hopefully be able to address the opioid issues and the mental health issues that we have in our region throughout. And it's not just happening here, it's throughout our whole country. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an epidemic. I don't think there's another word for it. It truly is. It's very sad. So I'm just glad to see that you're kind of fostering that. And, not just you yourself, but obviously the other members, that work alongside you. So, I do want to jump in, I know we don't have a ton of time, but, I was talking to another individual, the other day, and we got kind of talking about affordable housing, or what's now being classified as, attainable housing. And so I'm just curious if, so I know that there's huge division walls between the city of Durango, town of Bayfield, City of Pagosa, La Plata County. But, are you at liberty to kind of discuss anything that may be surrounding future plans for affordable or attainable housing? And I know affordable housing is a little bit more like Section 8 type vouchers for renting and leasing and things of that nature. If we talk attainable housing, this has certain government restrictions based on what you can make annually. Plus it can, have a specific deed restriction from a builder. So, are you at liberty to talk about, or do you have anything in the docket as far as attainable housing coming to Durango or coming to La Plata County?
Yeah, so we actually just recently had a work session, county commissioners did, with some developers, because we're curious exactly how can we help as the county's role. And I'll get down into municipal governments like the city of Durango and then town of Bayfield and town of Ignacio. But really, what is our role as the county to assist on, and Kyle, there's a new one, it's workforce housing now. That's what we're really focused on at the county, is being able to get teachers in a home to be able to stay at, so they can provide their professional expertise in teaching our children and our youth in La Plata County. And what's scary is that we're now focusing on AMI at 60 to 120%.
Can you expand real quick, though? I know what AMI is, obviously, in detail, but please, just while we've got you on here, can you expand?
I'm actually pulling up some numbers here on this, too, so I can give you the latest, greatest numbers here. But what I have right here is for our area, and so the abbreviation on AMI is area median income. And so what we're finding is that, low income is 0 to 15%. And then we have our extremely low income is 15 to 30. And, all the way, really what I'm getting, at least on my numbers, is up to 50% is deemed low income. Now, to give you an example of home cost, the average and median cost for a home in Bayfield is over $500,000. That's scary. If you start looking at police officers or teachers, they're not able to afford, even dual incomes won't be able to afford that cost for a $500,000 home. And so what our focus on is that, so 60 to 120%, you're looking at probably a dual income of about $120,000 income, which, holy smokes, I could be able to apply for a workforce housing, and I get fairly well waged, and I'm very appreciative of that in my position. But that's a really scary scenario. So what's happening with that being so high is that now teachers are not wanting to come here to teach at our schools. Doctors and nurses will look elsewhere because the affordability of a home is just out of their reach. And so that's what we're finding right now, and it's happening throughout the whole country, is the lack of our workforce. We can't fill in the open positions. La Plata County right now, as it sits, is short 38 positions. So, the concerns are being able to fill our lack of workforce that we have. And that's our sheriffs, that's our detention staff members to be able to man the jail. And so the area, the AMI, the area median income, really we're looking all the way up to 120%. And the lack of available housing in La Plata County is, as you very well know in your profession, is there is none. There's not. Sure. And the good news that we have is that town of Bayfield is looking at quite a few lots being be able to purchase and build a home. But then still, as a county commissioner, my concerns are what AMI are we looking at here? Is this workforce housing, or is it low income housing, or is this an option for second home ownership? And so what we're doing here in La Plata County is it's called a Regional Housing Alliance. I feel, at least personally, there's two other commissioners that are county commissioners here in La Plata, is that really the county's focus should be on infrastructure, roads and bridges. But with available funds, we should be able to contribute funds to a regional housing alliance that could help partner with the region, with developers and a lot of the nonprofit organizations and housing organizations to help develop that low income all the way up to workforce housing availability here in La Plata County. And so, Sure. Really, what's the county's role? I think that's being able to assist and stand up a lot of these organizations that can help address that. But
Absolutely.
what are the options of the county? We do well on roads. So potentially our contribution for developments would be, all right, well, we have to extend that county road to get to that development. And we, the county, could take some of that cost and help lower the impacts for developers to be able to build.
Yes, so the other day, like the conversation that I had sort of rose itself to the same scenario where, yes, individuals, people, citizens of the community are also being affected by truly attainable or affordable housing. But we were trying to drive home the concept of, like you said, these are our teachers, these are our officers and sheriff's members, these are firemen, EMTs, these are people that are the backbone of our services to our community. Like we have to, and we kind of briefly talked about, like they're not more important than other people's needs, and they're not. That's not what I'm saying. But it is absolutely imperative that we as a community attempt to resolve this issue, because it is absolutely an issue. Like there's a couple of sheriffs just in the town of Bayfield that are living in Aztec. They're commuting 50 minutes to their job to serve and protect a community that they can't even afford to live in. And that just, that blows me away that that's where we've gone to. And I know that a part of that was because of COVID and scarcity driven and zero availability of housing, and inflation just went through the roof. And I get that, but it's just like, we have to do something. But to add to your comments real quick about the AMI. So, for anybody listening to this, there's a bit of a struggle too from a new construction standpoint, which makes it really hard. A lot of people think that you could build a townhouse or an apartment complex or a new home, and you can just build it for less money. And the reality of it is like the labor costs are the labor costs. Inflation has risen, so has the cost to pay a person to do any type of material craftsmanship inside of a house. Costs of lumber, costs of metal, costs of everything across the world are through the roof. So when we looked at some plans the other day at the town of Bayfield, we were like, can we do this for X amount of money? And we had 3 different, essentially subject matter experts that were like, no, like not in today's world. Like we can't, unfortunately, we can't do a different type of a window because that's all that we can get for that specific wall. We can't do any cheaper of flooring, And then the other conversation was like, for lack of better terms, do we want to build something of lesser craftsmanship? I mean, yes, we're not going to build $1 million mansion and say, okay, guys, here you go. Government's going to subsidize you to live in this 17-bedroom home. And I know that's ridiculous, but what we were getting at is like, you don't want to build something that's not at least standard quality, because then what's going to happen in 10 years or 15 years, the deferred maintenance of that underbuilt or built without craftsmanship is going to have a negative impact to the people that are there, and they're not going to want to take care of it, and they're not going to want to build back into their little pocket community. So it was a great conversation, but it was sad to me because, again, these members that are truly the backbone of our protective services, our emergency and medical services, they can't even afford to be here. And then we expect them to be there when we make that phone call, so it's just like, we've got to figure something out.
Crazy backstory on that. That was our sheriff, La Plata County Sheriff, spoke in support of changing state legislation and allowing our sheriffs to be able to live in New Mexico so they continue working for La Plata County. And so we had to change at the state level to be able to allow that to happen, because Aztec is your next affordable option, but that's changing too as well for Aztec. The price is going up.
Yep, it's going up. I mean, it's. I think historically speaking, it's, you could probably on a median cell, I think they're probably 120 less than we are in Bayfield, but it's just a matter of time before it creeps up there, and then all of a sudden it's no longer affordable. So, in a couple of weeks, we've actually got a gentleman coming on to talk about some specific kind of pre-manufactured type homes, not a mobile home or anything like that, but pre-built in a factory. And we're going to talk in detail about his product, because initial research is showing potentially a 30 or 40% cost reduction. And there's a lot of data out there that, totally says that's garbage and that's not true. It can't be done. And then, his data says, yes, it can. So I'm really looking forward to that. And hopefully, two or three of these conversations surrounding some of these topics, it's like, okay, here's this avenue of an opinion, here's this avenue, and then here's a product. And it's like, what can we do to kind of just get the conversation really, really moving out there about it? So.
Right. I'll definitely have to listen in on that one because that is the discussion, is a modular developer here in our region. But it doesn't solve the problem of the cost of materials to get to our area. We don't have a major train station to be able to ship or train long haul the materials here to lower the cost. Grand Junction, I guess, is your closest bet, but then now you have to go over a mountain pass. So I'll definitely have to listen in on that. A lot of really good, interesting part is with our American Rescue funds that came in from the federal government, we were able to help create a housing revolving loan fund. So we set aside $1.7 million on a revolving loan fund to help save Triangle Park as well as Westside Mobile Home Park, which that is your low income type of homes. But that was able to save 70 homes, which was quite a few families that are working in our hotels, our restaurants. And so we'll get those funds back, not zero interest. But with that, we would like to do with that revolving loan fund is to increase and add more funds when it comes in, grant opportunities, and expand that. Because these two mobile home parks that were threatened to be bought out by a company that to expand and increase those rates. There's more mobile home parks to be coming of opportunity of selling and making a profit from those landowners.
Nice, that's good. Yeah, I think I had read something about that. Was that in Hermosa? Was that north of town?
Yeah, it's right on your way to Cortez. So that's the mobile home park. Okay. Right, is next to the Highway Patrol office, right across.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Yep, I had read something about that a while ago. I think that's a good deal, because that's like you say. I mean, 70 homes, and it's one of those. It's like you hear people talking about like flyby states, right? It's one of those drive-by neighborhoods, right? But it's you drive off the highway and you get in, there's 70 people. 70 families, so maybe there's a family of 3. So I think oftentimes it's one of those deals where people just doesn't affect me in my personal pocket. It doesn't affect my family. We'll just keep driving, blinders on, and we're good going down the road, and it's I don't ever blame anybody for having those blinders on, and it's not always everybody's job to quote unquote, help out the neighbor. But I do think that it's good to get the conversation going, right? Because these types of people, these types of personnel, they keep our communities running. That's the plain and simple fact. And so I think that we owe it, again, to ourselves and to our community to kind of get the conversation out there as broad as we can to get more opinions and start to build and develop a plan. So my hat's off to you, Matt. Like I really appreciate what you're doing. And I know it's not you alone. I appreciate the team and you kind of just moving things. So I do have a question for you, and I'm not asking this of you to pin you down, and you kind of talked about it a second ago. You started out in Bayfield as the mayor, but this question I'm asking, I'm going to preface it with this. I think it's good to do this sometimes in life, and it can be healthy for growth, because no one is ever the same person as when they're 18, when they're 25, when they're 35 or 40, and we inevitably change, and we get stronger. We get more knowledge. Sometimes we change our belief systems. Sometimes we do this. And so, and I could be wrong on this, but I thought in Bayfield, did you run, I don't even know if you have a party association in Bayfield?
Yeah.
Is it like that when you're there?
No, unaffiliated in Bayfield.
Okay. All right. So I'm completely wrong.
You have to see what you are. Yeah.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you, and so it's kind of irrelevant, but I was thinking that for some reason you had been Republican in Bayfield, and then you're obviously now Democrat affiliate.
Yes. So if you want me to touch on that, I'm more than happy to.
If you want to, and I'll expand.
Yeah, why not? Definitely. I've been very, as my father served in the Navy for 25 years, and I consider myself a moderate Democrat, and so I do my best to stay in the middle of the road and hear all sides on both parties, because both opinions and statements from the Republican Party or the Democratic Party is important to me, because I work for them. They live in La Plata County. So when I was a town trustee and also a town mayor, I was unaffiliated at the time. Yes, in college I was registered as a Republican, and and that was just the temperature at the time. My family was, and just still pro-military, and I value and love our veterans that have served our country. But at the time, the dynamic has changed for myself, and just well, my goal at least is that yes, I am a Democrat. Yes, I am a moderate. Parties do not sway my decision making whatsoever at the town level or even at the county level. My job is to work for the people. It's never a time for me to say, "Hey, which party are you?" Oh, you're that party? Oh, sorry, I can't help you. I don't care. What I care about is how I can address any of the situations or concerns that an individual brings up to me. And so I'm very proud to say that I'm doing my best is to look at all sides and address any concerns someone may bring. Further on down the road, if I choose to go further than county commissioner, maybe that tune will change. I hope not, because right now at the federal level, it's horrible, and the drama that is happening at the federal level is trickling down even to county government level, as well as small town government. And so my job is at least to do my best to prove to constituents of La Plata County or the region is that, hey, I'm here for you. It's not a letter D or a letter R or unaffiliated or independent. My job is to work for you all.
Good. I mean, that's, again, sorry, it's maybe my research was a little off apparently, but I again, to kind of go back to your comments, and yes, maybe you were registered Republican, and that's a great statement. Is that was the temperature of the times, and I have publicly kind of flip flopped, and because I do think that, again, I'll go back to when you're young and you're 18 or you're 25 or whatever, like you have kids, you have things that come into your life that for reasons, whatever the reason is that you do, as American citizens, you have that ability to change your belief system, or maybe you don't change your belief system, but you have that ability to kind of go, you know what, maybe this little like widget doesn't align with who I am right this second. And I'm going to go over here and just kind of have a conversation. And that might sway your belief, not your entire belief system or, whatever your backbone is that runs your brain. But, I don't think it's bad, or I don't think it's unhealthy. I've got a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances that, it's this way or it's this way. And sometimes it's unfortunate to have a conversation, because it's like, regardless of who the person is, it's like, it's this party or that party. And I'm like, I can't help but sometimes think that that's a little bit adding fuel to the fire that maybe is the problem, and it's like, I like to hear when people can admittedly say, like, yeah, I mean, I've done this. And I think, the way you say that you're working for the people, and those people in that community, no one person is going to have the exact same belief system as the other person. So I think that's great that you answer, like, regardless of my party affiliation, I'm here to service everybody, whether we agree on every topic or not. So I appreciate you expanding on that. And I do apologize that, my question to you was a little bit,
it's, I have with my family and friends, I've got Democrat friends, I've got Republican friends, and also with family members, I got my far left family, I got my far right family, and the best part about it is that I'm truly, I feel a moderate, and they all have a lot that they can bring to the table that I completely agree with and understand. But, luckily at the county level or at the town level, it's not about party affiliation. It's what's best for your community, what's best for your county, and you work for those who you represent. And I will stand by that and continue working hard for La Plata County residents.
Nice. And so obviously I know, but we're talking to the general public. So you live in Bayfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I live in Bayfield. Is there anything, having been mayor for as long as you were, and this kind of goes back to something earlier, you sort of, talked about why politics, but I'm curious because, again, we know each other on a little bit of a personal level, but I know that you had your two businesses. I don't know if you still have those. You don't have to talk about it, but you had your two businesses. You became mayor. You did some good things in our small community as much as you can at times. It seems like in Bayfield, and then to make that switch, it seems. I think maybe to a lot of local folks, it seems like maybe it's not a big switch, but in my mind, going from mayor of Bayfield to a county commissioner is huge. I don't even know that they're written out of the same playbook. I know that they're obviously a public figure. They're an elected official. I understand that, but I almost, in kind of preparation for today's podcast, I feel like there's got to be something as to why, like, what was the drive? Like, really, like, what, it just seems like a big leap, Matt, to go from that to commissioner. And then hopefully there's a future beyond commissioner. Because it seems it wasn't crazy when I saw your name on the ballot, and I knew you were running, obviously, and proud to say that I did vote for you. But I just was when I first saw it, I was like, that's a leap, and I think maybe people locally look over that, but I mean, was it a leap for you? Like really?
Yes, and I am still thankful for my roots started in Bayfield. I am proud that I was able to serve the public for the town of Bayfield for 6 years. And what's great about it is it did benefit. It did help me. It wasn't really a jump in the deep end of the pool, but it was a huge change. And that is because at the county commissioner level, I am speaking at state legislation. I am reaching out to our Congresswoman Bober, Senator Hickenlooper, Senator Bennett, and just being the voice for La Plata County. And it was something I didn't learn before as a town mayor. Really didn't do any of that outreach. It was more of just focusing on your town and your town's concerns. So it was a big change for me. It was a huge learning curve for me as well. But I do have to say, though, there was a benefit of doing small town politics and being a mayor before I became county commissioner. And so I'm still learning. I'm actually presenting a potential state legislation bill to mitigate and prioritize legally closed landfills throughout the whole state. So I go from, waving at the parade in Bayfield and worrying about, bear-proof or bear-resistant trash cans
Sure.
and recycling in Bayfield to, all right, we need to look at this at a bigger picture, and those legally closed landfills, we need to make sure that we prioritize them and make sure that we can continue making sure that we have safe drinking water and that our lands aren't polluted. And so it's definitely a big leap.
Sure. No, I can imagine. It's when you see something so secondhand and from afar, I just remember talking to myself, and it seems like it's been a lifetime ago when you were elected in, but it's like, God, that just seems like that's going to be a monster leap. I'm super happy and proud that you did it. But it just seemed like, obviously it was the right thing to do. Talking to you since then and having, personal conversations of, I love this. I enjoy this. Like, this is what I want my career to be, and I've kind of seen you change that from a bit of a mental perspective, and not to downplay Bayfield or anything like that, but the county thing, like you elaborated on, is an immediate larger scale. I think you go to the tune of the town of Bayfield is 2,500 people to, I think in the county, there's 56,000. So
56. Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, it's a big leap, man. Hats off to you again.
Yeah, and I was working for, town of Bayfield residents, but what I was really finding was that there was a lot of issues that spilled over into the county.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was also another positive for me of moving forward as county commissioner, because now I can still represent and hear from the town of Bayfield, but I can also represent the community of Bayfield. And of course, we're not just focused on Bayfield. You got Ignacio, you've got the dry side, the west side of La Plata County. So now I'm able to look at a much bigger picture, but you're right. It's 56,000 people, 56,000 different opinions. I love trying to sort out those problems or concerns that anyone wants to bring forward with me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I do one other topic. I don't even have this really thought out, but here we go. So I know on the county level, my daily job is, I'm a real estate agent by trade. And so, we're constantly dealing with Southwest Colorado problems. Number one problem is water. Water wells, distribution lines from, more of a municipal source, and I've heard that there's been and it seems like rapid advances in the La Plata Archuleta Water District, right? Is that anything that, does that kind of come into your purview at all, or is that a separate entity?
Water is always a concern. I always say water is gold. And so as I can provide input to La Plata Archuleta Water District, that is not connected to the county whatsoever. Okay. But there are discussions too as well that, Elmore's Corner, Animas Grange Planning District is wanting to meet here soon. I will be sitting down with them. And what's happening is that you have let's call it water districts, and you have the city of Durango's water district goes all the way up to Elmore's Corner. And there hasn't been any traction of the city wanting to expand services all the way to Elmore's. But La Plata has expressed interest on maybe potentially moving towards the Elmore's Corner area, because wells are a concern. Wells are drying up. If we don't get enough water through snow and going in and replenishing our aquifers as well as our water table and our lakes, water wells dry up. And we're hearing those stories. Heck, north of Vallecito, wells have been drying up, and it's right next to the lake. So water is always a concern on any development that's happening within the county. And so that's why, at least for myself, is to still lend support and be a part of annexation into a city or a town, because they have those services to be able to expand water, essential utilities, water, sewer, and being able to provide that water necessity for those developments.
Sure. Yeah. And that's good. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I have to deal with La Plata on a regular basis, especially, in the south of Bayfield, 509, 510, 511 corridor, and it's, a lot of those people are paying into La Plata right now. So that way that when the distribution line does go there, that they will have access to it, or tap will immediately be available. And so I was confused as to where, obviously La Plata is a private entity. But it's good to hear that the county is aware of the concerns. So, a couple other things. If you still have some time, are you okay?
Of course, definitely.
Okay, good.
I'm enjoying this.
Good. So, if you can, and you briefly talked about this earlier, but if you had a magic ball, I mean, I know that you're learning a ton, and you're, in this new position as county commissioner, but in the grand scheme, if we're looking at 10 years down the road, I mean, what would you like to see, as far as do you have the desire to move on to more of the state level or anything of that nature? And I know that you're an elected official, and I know that your focus is here right now, but we all have dreams and we all have plans and desires. And I'm just kind of curious because, and a little bit more selfishly, because I know you kind of personally, but if someone was to come to you and say, hey, Matt, we think you'd be great for this, do you have the desire to kind of move on beyond the commissioner role that you're in now? Right. If you could talk about it.
Yeah, of course. First and foremost, as you just stated, my focus is on La Plata County. And if I could really lay out exactly what I would like to do, and that would be as of right now, you can ask me tomorrow and it might be a different answer, but would be to rerun again and run a second term as county commissioner of La Plata. But yes, I do see myself, again, where I went from Bayfield to county commissioner, is that, all right, I'm now already seeing regional issues and concerns, and that will affect and help and benefit La Plata County, but as well as our region. There has been times of people asking me this exact same question. And so, yeah, I do. But the question I have for myself that I'm still trying to learn and sort out is one, work hard for La Plata, but what would that be? And honestly, it may not be as a elected official. It might be to work for an elected official, to work for the state. Hey, governor would be awesome, but that's too far out. But so I still feel the need. I still feel that I could maybe not be in the light, but working for someone that's isn't elected.
Nice. No, that's good. I think, I'm not trying to downplay it, but your approach to it really kind of, I think will inspire a lot of people, because you did start in Bayfield and you were there for a good amount of time. You learned, and then you took those learnings to the next level. And it's like, it's like no one becomes a pro football player without ever having played in Little League. Right. And I'm not downplaying what you did, but it's like you're taking that time to really learn that local environment, and you're expanding on that local environment at the county level. And then you're seeing, like you say, regional and it's like this approach to how you affect things on more of a state level is clearly in your purview, and you're learning from that. And I'm really glad to hear you say, and maybe, in 4 years, if somebody comes, hey, Matt, we want you to stay, this could all change. But I'm glad to hear you say kind of on the front end that, you at least need that time of that next term to truly expand your reach, if that makes sense. And for the listeners, I'm just kind of trying to add, it's like, take the time, learn what you can, perfect that craft, and then elevate, if you are given the opportunity, so it's really good to hear that you're not looking at that, but you're doing it, I think, in a very smart, community driven way and an approach, to not only your local community, your local region, and then even a state level. So that's good. That's good, Matt. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed this one. I had some last week, and I hate not being able to give my full attention or full mental capacity to a guest, because I feel like I owe them at least that for taking their time. And I feel like I'm giving a guest a disservice. But I was so just mental fog from that flu that was going through the Bayfield school system there for a second. I almost want to call and be like, can we just re-record? We'll just talk about, but it is what it is. So I was glad to have this one. I'm feeling good again, and this has been really good. So if somebody, wants to reach out to you, directly, do you have a contact that they should reach out? Like, do they need to reach out to the county, or can you give us that and we'll put it in the show notes for people that want to touch base with you directly, maybe?
Of course. So I do offer first Thursday and second Thursday of every month. The first Thursday is set for Bayfield Pine River Library, and the second Thursday revolving around La Plata County. But what I tell people is that don't wait for my office hours. Call me, email me anytime, and let's address your concerns right away instead of waiting until the first or second Thursday of the month. But yeah, so you can get a hold of me at my office number, which is 970-382-6217, or my email address, which is matt.salka@co.laplata.co.us.
Perfect. All right. Well, that sounds great, man. Again, really appreciate you. It's been a pleasure having you on, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you for the invite, and this was great. I enjoyed it.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right, thank you.
Are you listening?